The Get Down is brought to you by Digital Music Pool. Digital Music Pool is the ultimate record pool for professional DJs looking for the hottest tracks and exclusive hits updated daily in an easy-to-use platform. You can find exclusive edits from myself, Cream, Adam B., Andrew Marks, Angelo the Kid, Armin Averu, Chumpian, Dan FX, Castra, Pat C, and Samus J only on DMP. And we're giving you a chance to try their service for just $9.99 for the first month. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes or on the Get Down or Cream Instagram pages, create an account, and enter the promo code CREAM at checkout for your discounted month. DMP is my go-to record pool for new and exclusive music to play in my sets. So become a member for just $9.99 for the first month with the code CREAM and check it out for yourself. Click the link in the show notes or on the Get Down or Cream Instagram pages to sign up now. You will not be disappointed. If you love listening to the Get Down, you will love the video version of our show on YouTube even more. With all new audio and video upgrades, we've taken the show to the next level. On YouTube, you get to see our facial expressions, hand gestures, and real passion we have for this industry and for helping you grow your DJ business. Click the link in the show notes or on the Get Down Instagram page to watch the podcast now or search Get Down DJs on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to our channel, like, and comment any questions you might have that we could bring up on the show. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 131st episode of The Get Down, brought to you by Digital Music Pool. My name's Cream.
Gary W. here.
And what's up, Gary?
And I'm back.
Took a little time off, a little break. Haven't really been potting as much, but excited for this episode.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be back. I was just telling you, it was August 29th was the last time I was on. So it's been almost a month. It's been three full weeks. Good to chop it back up. It's good to take a break, though, too. I know we took a bunch of weeks off in the summertime, and rightfully so. But now we're kind of back in full swing. And you know what? Before we start this episode, if you guys are avid listeners, maybe shoot us an email or get down in our comments on either YouTube or on Instagram or wherever you listen to the pod, and hit us with some topics that you guys want to hear. I feel like we kind of hit a wall last week, and that's why we didn't pod.
Yeah.
We had some BS topics that we could have talked about, and I just don't think that we just didn't feel passionate about it, so we didn't do it. And I want to know what you guys want to hear. What's something different that you guys would like to hear our opinions on, and then you guys could obviously chime in as well in the comments where you guys
let's peel the curtain back. We were literally sitting there we were on Zoom last week, like, what are we going to talk about this week? And we couldn't come up with anything good enough that we felt like we could put out into the world. And we were like, we could get through one, but it's not going to be that good. So we decided not to pod, and that's the first time that we've done that in a long time. Which kind of got us talking about, all right, what are some ways that we can kind of make this more exciting? Because if Gary and I are struggling to come up with topics for the pod, you guys are probably getting sick of hearing us talk about the shit we've been talking about. So I think you're going to see some guests for sure in the coming weeks.
Much needed. I reviewed, honestly, the last 6 months, and we've been sparse on guests, to say the least.
This summer's tough, right? The summers are always hard. Everybody's traveling. So we knew we were going to be a little lighter with the podcast over the summer. But I think here now, back in the fall, everyone's around. It's easier to get people in a room together to come shoot. So I think we'll have some good guests, which we've kind of been brainstorming and reaching out to some people. So
yeah, you know what, too? We're going to try to start to think about series to bring to you guys as well. And we're going to see what we can come up with. Well, and if also, like I said before, if you guys have any ideas for maybe series that you'd like to see, we have one in in mind. We don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it's going to be super
like
informative.
The Business Owners series or something like that, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be super informative, super direct on like one specific topic with a guest who's specialized in that topic. And there'll probably be 3 or 4 episodes surrounding that, right? Roughly, maybe not in a row, but every other week kind of a thing. We're deciding the format on that still, so we don't want to announce anything, but it's something of that nature that I think that you guys can get excited about. And not only that, like pull out your notebooks kind of a thing and take notes, because they're going to be these very pointed episodes where it's educational and hopefully entertaining too at the same time.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm excited. We need something new and fresh, so I'm looking forward to doing something a little different. All right, let's get into kind of the first thing we wanted to talk about, and it's a topic that's come up in conversations with some of the owners and managers over the last little bit here as we've been prepping for a big fall, and that is, do we want to have a larger rotation of DJs, or does it make more sense to have resident DJs that are there every week, keep a tight-knit circle of DJs? And what's really the best way? What's the best way? I don't even know the answer to that, but what do you think?
I don't think there is a best way. This isn't black and white, right? Like a lot of things that we talk about, it's not black and white. I think when you're picking your entertainment for your venue, it's very specific to your venue. It's also very specific to your guests' taste, and then the ownership's taste and what they're comfortable with as well. I think the comfort level of I guess who's booking your DJs and kind of how comfortable the owner is with those people. I think that's one thing. I think what we see often though is that the people that do like the security blanket of a resident DJ, after about 3 months, they get a little sick of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, all right, this person's kind of worn out their welcome, because there's a multitude of things that we'll go into that why having a resident isn't always the best formula for a place. So we can go into like those why that's not a good idea for a place. But I don't think it's very black and white. I don't think it's you should do this or you shouldn't do this. I think it's very dependent upon the venue, and then also the spots in which the DJs are being asked to work. Whether there's an opener, a headliner, there's so many different levels of this that we can get into. So where do you want to start?
I don't know. No.
So let's start with like major nightclub, right? Is it smart for you, being the entertainment director for a company? Do you think it's smart to have a set opener every week? And if so, why?
It's hard for me because I'm a DJ first, right? I think if I was an owner of a club, I'd probably want 1 or 2 resident openers, 3 resident openers that I know exactly what they're going to do every week. I trust them. We're never going to have any clunkers, and that's it. And eventually those people move on to become my headliners, and it's sort of like grooming the next generation of headliners for my venue. I was one of those people. When I was coming out, I was one of the couple residents who opened for all the big DJs, and eventually I got my shot to be a headliner there. And I think that's a great process and a great way to groom the next group of DJs and really kind of show a young DJ what it takes to become a headliner and what it takes to be successful in your particular room. So that's where I came from. And I like that. I like that layout personally for a nightclub.
I also I prefer that in a nightclub setting. I prefer that from a headliner's perspective, from a DJ's perspective. When I'm walking in, this person knows this room better than anybody. If I have any questions, I can ask him. If there's an equipment issue, I can ask him or her. That's
a great point.
That
they
person
know all
knows
the staff. They know the ins and out of the building. They know how to switch over. They know everything and can be that headliner DJ's kind of liaison to whatever they might need in the night.
If I get stuck in traffic or at a different gig and I can't get there in time, well, that opener knows that room better than anyone.
Right.
So he knows how to transition into the headliner set if he needs to. So there's so many benefits in having a set opener. The other thing would be is that like a lot of times your openers are younger DJs, right? And if you're gonna continue to cycle through a bunch of younger DJs as your openers, I don't know if you had this, but like you're nervous. You're playing a bigger room, yet you're opening for a bigger act, and you're nervous, right? And you might not be familiar with that equipment, and there are a lot more things that can go wrong if you're just cycling through new openers constantly. So I think if I was a club owner, that's how I would want to do it. I'd probably have 2-3 max, right? Because, I mean, if you're doing Friday and Saturday night, the person's not going to be there every Friday and Saturday. So if you could have 2 guys per weekend, that's fantastic. And then like another guy that just
I think in our
in.
situation, it's a little unique because we book so many venues. It's like we want to give multiple DJs an opportunity to get into Birch, number one. We also want to give some of the resident DJs that have been in there a good amount opportunities to go play headline sets at other venues because they're doing that in most cases. So it's a sticky situation for sure, but I think in a perfect world, we've settled on this like 1 to 3 opener, 2 to 3 opener DJs that are residents every week in a nightclub setting for sure. I'd say the other place where a resident is really successful to me is on off nights. So if you're throwing a Thursday night party or you're throwing like a Sunday football party, I also think rather than cycling through DJs, you're better off finding one person that can own that particular day. The clientele knows who you are. They get to know you as a person. They get to know your style, and they come there because they know how you DJ, and you've created this fun thing.
The off nights, it is so important to have a regular face in there because the people who come in and they wind up, you got to figure it's an off night, right? It's not packed all the time. Okay. So the people that come in and, buy the bar out and have a really good time and party super hard, even with their small group of people, get to know a lot of the people in the space. And those are the people that they're going to come back next week, right?
Right.
Okay. They had a great time. It's the same thing with bartenders. On those off nights, it's really important if you're building a party, you're trying to build a party, you need the same staff in all the time because you want to establish fans of that party, fans of that bar, fans of that DJ, fans of that bartender.
Right, because those regular customers come back and they know the bartender, and the bartender knows what you drink, and the DJ sees you and daps you up and knows like your favorite song if you're there all the time. And it's just like you create this family-like atmosphere,
Yeah, and then it builds from there on those off nights. And now I've established 2 or 3 groups of people that roll in, and now when like that group of 3 people roll in to an empty bar and turn around and walk out, well, now they're going to stay.
Right. They know where the party's going to go. They know what the music's going to be like. They know the bartender. And if nothing else, they're going to hang out and get drunk.
So I think it's overlooked by a lot of bar management where they get used to rotating bartenders. So it's like their favorite bartender of the week, and they're putting that bartender on for whatever the hot shift for that week is. And then like the people that built parties wind up getting forgotten about. And I feel like sometimes it's like that with DJs too. Like we have a spot that I know in the future is going to be a very, very good spot that really not a lot of people want to play at currently. But I know when that place goes and pops off, the people that want to be in that room right now are going to be there when they have a line up the block.
Right.
It's not going to be like, okay, this guy's coming in and said he wants to play there now because it's a hot spot. Well, I remember that, you said that you don't want to play there kind of a thing. You know what I mean? So like, you have to, it's got to be the same mentality, right? Like it's feed the people that want to be there, and those guys want to play at those venues will get those off nights as well. Yeah. That's just looking at it from a booker's perspective, not so much as from a bar owner's perspective.
Yeah, but I think a lot of those factors kind of translate for an owner as well, where they want the DJ to be part of the party, and they want people to come see that person weekly, Yeah. So then, all right, so we kind of talked about from a nightclub opener perspective. We've talked about from an off-night perspective. I think everywhere else, Friday and Saturday, I think it's great to have a rotation of 5, 6, 7, 8 DJs that then come in and play your room. Especially like those open to close sets. I think it's super important.
We've learned that it's very important because the staff and the clientele loves the different styles that they get to. Listen, if you have a good DJ in a room, they're going to rock the room, right? They're going to do a good job. If you place a good DJ in a spot, he's going to do a good job, and he'll get to showcase his style. I have one venue in particular that I'm thinking of that they really enjoy your style, but then they like when I come in because they like my style. But it's really nice not to hear the same style every week.
Right. We're going to play different music, but we're going to get to the same place, you know? And we're going to, my journey is going to be way different than your journey, but we're going to have a good time along the way.
Right. Exactly. And we're going to make sure that, and those good DJs are going to make sure that dance floor is full, and they're going to make sure that the drinks are getting poured behind the bar and the bartenders are getting tipped. And then everybody's happy in the room, no matter what the style is, as long as the music is affecting the room in a positive way, then everybody's happy at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's funny, using you and I as an example is a great way to do it, because we always say how different we are as DJs, but we play a lot of the same rooms, you know, and it's like
the worst duo in DJ history. I'll go on record to say that we cannot DJ together. It's so different.
We DJed together like in the last few years. Where was that?
It was somewhere and it wasn't good. I might have been Birch.
We can't go 1 for 1. We have to go like 3 for 3.
Yeah, it's got to be like little sets. Because it's that different. It is that different. But it goes to show you that, like, you know what? There are still plenty of venues that love you and plenty of venues that love me simultaneously, even like within the same week.
Right.
You know? So it just shows why it's important to have different DJs and different styles in the same room.
I just think it's important to keep it fresh, have different perspectives on the room, have different personalities. You know, some people are going to use the mic more, some people aren't. And I think in doing that also, as a venue and a manager and owner, they get to see what really works. So then the DJs that maybe are good DJs but aren't doing it the way their favorite DJing is doing it, they can then give some feedback and say, hey, they'll either tell us if it's one of our venues, or they could tell the DJ directly, like, take more of this approach. It's really been working. We've had some of our most successful nights doing it like this.
Yeah.
So then you get the best of both worlds, right? You get what's working in the room, you get a different perspective, and you kind of get the best of both. So
let's talk about the disadvantages of being a resident DJ at a venue. And I'm going to just right off the bat, just comfortability, getting comfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
DJ
the number one thing.
What's the number one
feedback
thing
we get is, oh, this DJ is too comfortable. And it's usually the guy or girl that's been there every week for the last 6 months or whatever.
It becomes hard to differentiate your set in the same venue week by week, right? It's kind of funny because I've had bartenders go, yeah, you play a lot of the same music, but you play it in different points of the night.
Right.
You know, it might be disco to start, but then you might do disco main set at peak hour at some point, you know? And that changes it up. A lot of us get in this routine, though. I do it all the time, especially in like the offsets, like my 5 to 9 set at one of our venues. I play a lot of the same stuff. I can go back in my history and it's just a lot of the same music because I don't know what else to play in that space during that time. Whereas if somebody else comes in, they probably have a different perspective on what that room needs.
Right.
You know, so it's good to switch up the DJs because they're seeing the room through different eyes. It's not the same anticipation of, okay, well, this is what this place usually likes, and we're going to, you know, kind of just serve that to them. There becomes a creativity block almost, if you will.
It's a challenge.
You get stuck in your ways.
When you've been in a place for a long time, you kind of know the journey that works, right? And like you could stray from the journey to start or to finish, but like the meat in the middle is kind of many times the same if it's you're playing the same place for a period of time. So it's one of the biggest challenges as a DJ, as a resident DJ, and that's to be able to get creative and play different stuff and still get the same reactions in the room without doing the same thing that you kind of always do, you know?
Yeah. The challenge, I think a good way to go about that, just to get, we're going to get off topic for just like a second here, but a good way to go about that would be just like go download different remixes of those songs that you would normally play.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do, right? But then it's also maybe challenge yourself when you're walking into that normal place and start differently. Start with like a genre that you would not normally start with in there. If you always start with Afro, well, don't start with reggae or soca. It's too close. You're gonna wind up getting there anyway.
Right.
Go start with something else completely. You know, maybe it's 80s hip hop that like you haven't played in a long time, or early 2000s hip hop. You don't ever play that there. Like you think about the gig in a completely different light.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice, because not only does it keep it fresh for the people that are there and the staff, it's also fresh for you, and you get to go in there and do something and try something new and play some music maybe you don't always play, and it keeps you engaged. And when you're engaged as the DJ, your customers and the crowd is going to feel that way more than if you're like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing I do every week here, and you're kind of bored. If you're bored, they're bored.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a good, like something that I've done recently to remedy that, and kind of I like walk you through my thought process on how it went. So like one would be like, well, this is the exact scenario. I would always go in and open with Afro beats, and like, because that's what they were playing in the restaurant, and I just kind of continued that. And then, like I said, I wanted to stay away from soca, and I wanted to stay away from reggae because that's kind of all in the same folder for me, because it's all parallels in some capacity, right? So I walked in and I'm like, all right, well, what would this crowd still recognize, but it's really left field and it's weird. So like weird to not Afro beats, So I started with like Katy and saw where like that 115 BPM stuff went, and got into like electronica.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
And I was like, okay, well, I think this crowd's going to still understand what I'm playing, but it's not the same old bullshit that I've been playing, and
Right.
it's still vibey, and it's something that you could sit around and vibe to and drink to and have a good time to, but it's not that other stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of how I walked myself through that thought process. And now you could do that with any genre and kind of get to that same place.
I would say another tactic or another thing that you could do to keep it fresh, and it's something that I've gone back to here in the last year, where no matter what the set is, I prep a folder of new music that I haven't really played there. And I think that's been so important for me to have a fallback when I get stuck and I'm like, oh, I have this folder, let me go see what's in there. And there's a few tracks that can put me down a new road, but also just being able to play new music that I haven't played before. And that's been such a huge, huge thing for me. Many times, if it's not like a big room EDM set, I'm going and doing some homework, and I'm like, well, I want to go download more R&B tracks that I can play tonight, or I want to go download more Afrobeat, or I want to go download more disco. And just doing that homework and going into Spotify and looking at playlists, I'll like find a bunch of new music, or I'll find songs that I totally forgot about in my Serato, and I'll bring them into the folder to play. And it's just like a great way to keep yourself fresh and your sound fresh.
I just did this for Friday. I spent about 2 hours last night doing it. I went down a 2000s R&B rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And like I was just I pulled probably like 50 or 60 songs. And I open with R&B often in two of our venues, but I have never done it in this current venue that I'm going to play on Friday. So I'm going to go that route. And I wanted to make it fun for me. So I was like, all right, let me grab a whole bunch of new stuff and do that. So I think that's great advice to like, jump on Spotify and just refresh. Give yourself some fresh ears, if you will,
Yeah. Do you want to talk about like some areas where we've struggled lately, where we've had some sets that you and I were just like, that was not a good set, and maybe some of the reasons why that happened? I want to kick this off because I think this translates well to what we were just talking about, but I'm finding that my sets in the hip hop forward or more open format forward rooms are more stale because there's just not as much new music that I'm finding that I'm connecting with and want to go play. A lot of the older stuff is just working. All the Young Money stuff and the 2000s and like all the just older music. And there's only so many ways you can play the same old tracks in a set, And I feel as though I'm playing a lot of the same music in the certain room that I'm talking about. and it's just boring to me, and I don't know how to refresh it.
So it's kind of funny that you say that, and now what I was thinking, I had a rough set where it wasn't crowded at all, and the crowd that was there was so far away from the DJ booth. I was having a hard time, like, really just connecting with them, even though I could tell they had their hands up and they were having a good time over there.
Right.
But I couldn't get a feeling for it. But so I walked out of that set thinking about, okay, well, how can I refresh? I felt like I was a little stale today. And I feel like I'm not playing enough of the old stuff, where like that used to be my bread and butter. Yeah. Like I can play the shit out of a old school hip hop set, you know, especially a party old school hip hop set. That I used to play that set so much that I'm afraid to go back to it because I feel like I'm just the same old DJ that I was 15 years ago. You know, even though that's only something I would know.
Right. The customers would have no idea, but to you, it would feel like you're just redoing what you used to do.
But I have a mental block when I'm DJing. It's like, well, don't touch that stuff. That stuff's out. Like it's, even though it's not, it's back in. Like for me, it went out for so long that it's hard for me to bring it back in. And I was thinking about that because we're going to do our back-to-back set for our event in October. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to do old school hip hop and do like word plays and stuff. I'm like, I haven't done any of that stuff in so long because I avoid it like the plague because I just feel like it doesn't translate.
Right. Well, old school to us is probably a decade back from what old school today is, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It is.
So like I'm referencing old school and it's like the 2000s to 2010s hip hop, which is what is really working for a lot of us right now.
Yeah.
And like our old school is like Jay-Z and Biggie and Nas and all that stuff.
That stuff's really off the table.
But that's like really old. Like I never hit any of that stuff ever.
No, that stuff's way out.
But we might hit it when we play back to back. That might be fun.
I'm gonna play a lot of it, to be honest. A lot of stuff that a lot of our younger guys have never heard. But yeah, like there is that block where like I'm like, okay, like what's too old or what's just old enough, but doesn't matter what it is. Like that 2010 stuff gets played so much.
Yeah.
So much. I've never taken it out of my set.
Yeah.
Since then.
I don't know.
So it's really
hard
redundant
for me. And I think that's part of the reason why I just don't enjoy the open format stuff as much as I used to. And that's why I play more EDM forward rooms at this point. I'm just feeling, for myself, I get more excited about those other sets. Like I said, because I'm not really connecting with a lot of the new down-tempo stuff as much. I mean, I like to play the Latin stuff. I like to play the new hip-hop stuff, for sure. It's fun. I love the reaction. But, like, I want to quick mix my life away, and there's only so many songs that I could quick mix through in hip-hop, you know? Like, I'm going to play 300 songs in a 4-hour set or whatever crazy amount that I get to if I'm only playing hip-hop, Latin, down-tempo, you know?
Yeah.
Or mostly playing that. I think the other thing with the EDM, it's like I have 10 ways to play the same vocal. It could be a tech house version. It could be bass house. It could be dubstep. It could be big room EDM. Like, I just feel like there's so many more ways to play the same music. You know, a lot of us are playing a lot of the same music in the EDM world, but there's so many different ways to play the same song. There's only so many ways I can play Ski Yee right now. Like, there's only one or two ways. Like, how many ways can you really do it unless you come up with a really cool, unique routine or a word play, or you can slam it in, or you could quick mix it in. Like, I don't know. There's not a lot of ways to do it.
Play Cheesy's new remix.
Shout out to Cheese. I'm wearing the I Cheese NY t-shirt right now.
That's why Cheesy's on my mind. I'm looking at your t-shirt. But yeah, he just came out with a remix of that yesterday, so check that out.
But am I off base on that? You know, like there's only so many ways I can play a Drake track in a hip hop room. There's only so many ways I could play a Bad Bunny track in a hip hop room. If I play the house version of Bad Bunny, most of the time people get pissed.
I know. So you're right. You're kind of in a box when you're playing that kind of stuff. But it's, unless you're a turntablist and you have routines and whatnot that you go about. But even then, like if you have set routines, like really, there's only a few ways that you can go about.
Right. I have a number of routines to bring songs in and out in hip hop, But like once you do them in your rooms, you can't really do them that much anymore. You know, like you got to retire stuff and bring new stuff into the picture. So maybe that's the way, is just getting more into like some word plays or just a unique ways to bring things in. The only other thing I would say is, blends and like kind of some of these like electronic 105 or 90 BPM edits are kind of cool, but there just aren't so many out there, you know?
I think we need more hip-hop edits. We just need more hip-hop edits. I don't think there's enough of them. I
just subscribed to Nick Bike and Conflict and somebody else. I said to you offline, like, maybe we should just go and sign up for a bunch of these Patreons and show some love to some of these really dope artists and producers that put out some unique stuff. Nick Bike stuff is really dope.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to do it too. Get exclusive content from specific artists.
Yeah.
That's a great way to support artists and then also keep your stuff fresh. I mean, you played a set 2 weeks ago where a DJ came off and said, I never heard any of these edits, and they're all they were your edits.
Right.
That, hey, listen, like if you had a Patreon, that like you could sell those, put them out on Patreon.
I went back through that set and I was like, wow, I did play a ton of just my own edits in the first hour of the set. It was like, if I played whatever, I don't even know how many songs I played, but 75% was probably Cream edits in that first hour.
I mean, it's a great way to set yourself apart. It's a great way to just sound different, and you're the only one doing it. And if you have a Patreon and even if you have 50 subscribers in the country, think about that. There's only 50 DJs in the country that have that stuff. It's not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting my edits out into the world on edit packs that are getting downloaded pretty heavily, but like,
I'm saying if you specifically as an artist wanted to go the Patreon route too.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't know. I'm my allegiance right now is Digital Music Pool, and like my time making edits really just goes to them. But I think like we've talked about a bunch of stuff down the line that we could roll out, and maybe Cream edits will be part of a Get Down something platform that we are kicking around ideas on. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, well, that last topic does relate to that first topic, and the fact that like, the two of us play those rooms, the two rooms that we're speaking of currently that were slower regularly.
Right.
And I mean, even as people that play there regularly, it was still difficult to read the room. Imagine if you're a new DJ in that situation.
Right.
It's even exponentially more overwhelming.
I think that's where you or I or any experienced DJ is going to say they had a bad night, when we're so used to being able to know what's going on in the room, know what's working, know what's not working. For you or I to be in a room and be like, I don't know what these people want right now, that's a little scary. And I think that's where I'll say I had a bad night. If I was like, I didn't really get them, it took me a while, or like they weren't like jamming out to the stuff that I thought they would. It was a strange night. I didn't feel like I really got them till like 1 a.m. almost.
It probably took that long. I don't know if that was the same. It wasn't the same night, right? No, it was the night after. You played the night after.
Yeah, I think
it was the same weekend. It was the weekend after Labor Day.
It was just a lighter weekend than we had thought, and it was a different crowd than I was used to. It was just a later night where the dance floor didn't get packed until later. Normally, they start clearing things out 10:30, 11 o'clock. You're going in there, and it took a lot longer than that to get going. So there was a lot of factors, I think.
We knew we know historically that's a slower night anyway. We know that for a fact. That's why they do opening night for the fall season the following weekend, 2 weeks after Labor Day. So it shouldn't have been shocking, but it's still rooms that should be doing well, and that kind of fell flat on their face.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it happens to all of us, right? Like I think you and I have been doing this long enough where like it could bother us a little bit, and we could talk about it on the show, but like it's not going to affect how you or I DJ this coming weekend. It's like, all right, that's done. We're going to learn from it and move on, kind of thing.
I love those nights because I have now done a ton of prep.
Yeah.
It motivates me to really get whenever I have a good night, I'm like, all right, well, the stuff that I have is good. I can update a couple things, like the biggest songs that come out in the next 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it is between my sets. If I DJ on a Thursday and new stuff comes out on Friday, like I'll update that stuff, but I won't do this like deep dive like I'm doing right now. And I'm like doing a complete upgrade of multiple folders. Just so when I walk in, I know, like, listen, if it's dead, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, and I have multiple options at my fingertips.
Yeah,
where I'm not feeling stale, right? And that was a huge part of it. It's kind of funny. That's what we were talking about. I think that is why I brought it up so much, because I did feel like my DJing was just stale.
One other tactic that I'm kind of just thinking about that I think would be a good exercise for anybody that maybe played a room and didn't have the best night or doesn't really know how to play a room. I think it would be great to just share Serato sets with someone who's been there a lot or who's had a really successful night. If you've seen somebody play a room that you're about to play and you saw some video and it was jammed out, or you talked to the person, they said it was an amazing night, maybe it's worth grabbing that set list. And honestly, if I see how you play a room, not only am I going to understand like the flow of the night, but I think also it might open me up to thinking like, oh, I never thought to play this room in this way. And I can then dig into my Serato and find some stuff or go download some stuff that you play that I would never play or don't have to kind of reinvigorate yourself and create this, or just be more prepared for the next time around.
It's a great maneuver. It's a maneuver that we suggest to guys that are walking into a room blind that have never played at a place. We always have guys share playlists and kind of the vibe of the night, kind of the flow of the night, the ebbs and the peaks and the valleys, if you will.
Yeah.
But it can happen to where you do walk into a place, even if you're somebody that plays at a place regularly and you have a flat night. Go and ask somebody recently, like, oh, you had a really good night? Well, my night was flat. Share that playlist. And I think it's important to ask, like, what was it like at the beginning of the night, too? Like, did you have a room and then you lost it? Why did you lose it?
Right.
And did it start slow and then you built up gradually? And then you have to ask that other DJ about, like, kind of how the night started, too. Because there's been plenty of scenarios that I've talked to managers and owners, and they're like, oh, we were packed. There was 500 people in the room, and then at 11 o'clock, we had 200 people in the room.
Right. That's where,
it's like, well, somebody
that's where
lost
your
the
job
room.
might be in trouble, kind of thing.
But
if you're
have
clearing
to be
rooms
cognizant.
like that, you might not be back.
You have to be aware of where you went wrong.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I'm talking about is it just took a while to get going. It's not that we didn't have a packed room. If you have a packed room and you're clearing it out, you probably did something different from what the customers are used to, or you played some stuff that they just weren't really feeling.
I know in my situation last time that I played, it was like that specific venue I'm speaking of, there's a lot of tables to start the night, and then there's not.
Right. Clears out a lot of space.
You almost always walk into a packed room, like every table, and then they start clearing tables. And those people that don't want to hear loud, nightclub, which in that space, not everybody wants that.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that now that I'm thinking about it and we're talking it out here live, I probably should give everybody a heads up that plays in that room that if a lot of those people leave, it's not because of the music that you're playing. It could just be the fact that
they want to sit at a table and enjoy some drinks and not be on a dance floor type thing.
Right, exactly.
Which makes total sense.
That space is a little tough. But there are plenty of spaces like that around the country, that people play at. Because there's a few in New York City that I can think of offhand that like decent DJs play at.
Yeah.
It's like you have to make that adjustment.
All right, let's talk some music.
Sure.
There was some news recently, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, that Katy Perry just sold her catalog for $225 million. What are your thoughts?
Fuck you, pay me. Absolutely. Sell it all day. You know what? In an age where album sales are non-existent,
yeah,
and these people are getting paid off of touring And you have to tour
minute
a lot.
streaming is not paying the bills. Now, for the biggest artist, that's a bigger chunk of money than the average artist, but still.
But they all still have to tour to uphold the lifestyle that a lot of them lead. You know, you have to tour. And touring costs a ton of money. And on the pop level, the show that needs to happen to keep up with what's pop big right now. Like, I'm just thinking about like what the Taylor Swift show looks like and what the Beyonce show looks like. Like, they're fucking shows. They're big productions.
Yep.
As you're an aging artist and you don't want to do a 50 stop world tour, what's your next out? Your next out is to sell your catalog of music, especially if you're 38 years old, like Katy Perry, turning 39, I believe, and you have this incredible catalog of music. You know, maybe she doesn't want to go on the road all that much. Get rid of it. What is it doing? What is it doing for you?
This to me is like, if you hit the lotto, are you taking the lump sum or are you taking the payout over the long haul? And it's not the exact same thing, but I kind of agree with you, man, where it's like, we don't really know where the music industry is going. Obviously, these artists are going to be paid in some way for their art and for their music, but who knows where that's going to be in 5, 10. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about AI here, and like, who knows what's going to happen with AI and how that's going to affect the industry. I think that's one of the big things that could totally change how the music industry works. And if I was an artist and I'm 38, 39, 40, and I don't want to tour as much as I used to, and I want to live the rest of my life, but still get my payout, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to take the money right now.
No-brainer. I was just, a buddy of ours just sent me something on Michael Jackson how he was buying up catalogs left and right. He was going in like buying full like labels catalogs. He had an investment team that would sit down and tell him if it's a good investment or not. When the Beatles investment came up, his team said no. His team said it was a bad investment.
Why? Because it was too expensive, or
because it was so much money.
Yeah.
This was a different time, but I'm telling this story because just to show you how different times have changed. This guy was making, how many millions of dollars on his record sales at the time. So at this time, he's like tripling down. He was selling the most records ever. And I think Thriller's still the number one selling album, I think. He was touring, and then he was buying up catalogs like the Beatles. So his investment team says, don't buy them. And he bought them at like, I don't know, $1 billion or some crazy shit. It was like just some crazy money. Over the span of him owning that, it was the last 30 years, right? I think it goes public again in like a couple of years. I think in a span of like 30 years or 35 years, it has tripled in worth.
Really?
So like it's now worth like $3 billion or some crazy money like that. So maybe there still is, because it's still worth a ton of money. Like catalogs are still worth a lot of money. So maybe there is worth value in it that we're not seeing, or maybe there is potential value long term and stuff that maybe is not even invented yet.
I really think it is an investment, right? It's a little bit of a gamble. You don't know what it's going to be worth. Yes, the Michael Jackson catalog tripled, but who knows in 20 years where those catalogs are going to be. And I think as an artist, $225 million sets you and your family and your family's family for a long time, Not to mention, if you want to go make some money, you could just go on tour.
Right.
Because that's where artists are really making their money anyway right now. So
it's life-changing money. I think we spoke a little bit about Springsteen selling his about 6 months ago. He was talked about it on Stern, which was really good. And I think he felt like he waited a little too long even because, he's in his 70s. And it's, like you might as well benefit from the hard work you put in.
Now, listen, like Katy, you're going to see residuals no matter what. If you keep these catalogs, you're still going to make a lot of money, right? But it's just a slower drip over the course of time. And again, in changing times, who knows what that's going to be down the line. So I totally get it. I think as an artist, and if I was like giving away my IP and my music, it would hurt, it would hurt to do it. And it would probably take me a while to come to the point of being like, okay, I'm okay to do this. I'm willing to give it up and it's gone and that's it. Obviously 225 mil would make that pain go away pretty quick, but
it's hard when you sell your IP and then it gets used in something that doesn't align with your brand. So like when you're going out to tour now again, and let's just take the Bud Light scandal, because it's like one of the most big, it was the bigger brand scandals that we've seen, scandals in quotes, all year. And let's say you put the next Bud Light commercial, like, they use your IP and you're like, well, I don't align with what they said or what they did here. And now they have your IP in their next big commercial. And it's like, holy shit. Now DJ Cream's aligned with, the things that Bud Light did or didn't do. And it's like, shit, that's where it gets a little scary. I think.
I didn't really think about that, but I could see how that would be a little scary. But I mean, you would hope that doesn't happen more than once or twice in your lifetime, right?
You'd hope. But like, in tumultuous times like these where people take every offense to everything, it can burn a bridge down real quick. And then maybe selling those tickets is a little tougher,
right,
when you're going out on the road. But when you have $225 million, are you really in need of like going out and touring?
I think on the other side of things, it would think about the people or the groups that are investing in all of this and how it's just so interesting to me, and how there's a market for buying people's full collections of music, and like you're collecting those collections as if you're collecting, MP3s or CDs or creating Spotify playlists or whatever era of music that you grew up in, vinyl, cassettes, whatever it might be.
But it's all in that stuff, right? It's got to be. It's all in marketing. It's all in. You know what? We're going to repress vinyl, and like this vinyl's has made a huge comeback over the last 15 years. And now we were just talking about it this morning. You're seeing all these vinyl bars pop up, and like that's become a whole thing. And like, okay, so you can repress and have album sales again, and they're not cheap. But the marketing is really where the money is,
right? Selling
to brands and letting them use the IP in their commercials and ads and whatnot.
It's cool. The business student and business person side of me loves this part of the industry, and just like it's just very interesting to me.
Yeah, and who knows where it's going to go? Who knows where these people's catalogs can be used? There's a million different things.
Yeah. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the Drake AI track.
I just wanted to talk about, do we think that it deserves to be nominated for a Grammy? And if it wins, like who gets that Grammy? Does Drake and
Weeknd Ghostwriter would get it? No, the guy who created it,
I guess. But does he deserve to really get it? Like, what? I would need to see like how it gets created in the first place. Is it just a very simple, I want a Drake and Weeknd track about X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, or like, did he produce the beat and then use AI to grab the vocals and create something? Did he write the vocals and then use AI to use their voice to replicate it in their voice?
He definitely just said that, I want Drake and Weeknd to make a song about... I did it with my buddy Dave the other day. It said, I want to make a song about Gary who DJs in Hoboken. And it wrote like three different verses and a hook.
It's crazy, man. Seconds. It's crazy times. And I to go back to your first question of, do I think it deserves to be nominated for a Grammy? No, I don't. Do I think that the Grammys have nominated it to create some buzz and some interest in the show? And is that playing a big role here? Yeah, I think that's definitely playing a big role here.
I never thought about that. If that's what they're doing, genius. Good for them, because everybody's talking about it, right?
Listen, I'm about 100% sure that AI is going to play a role in how we are DJs and music producers in the future, period. it's already playing a role in how I put out my last release. I created my artwork, or I created an idea for artwork that I then sent to a graphic designer so they could have a better idea of what I was trying to do. I used AI to create a short video clip that I could upload to Spotify so that when you go on Spotify and search my track, it's a video and not just a static image.
Right.
I mean, there's like so many ways to use AI right now, just as a DJ who's not even making music, let alone in music production. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see plugins or apps or something that will literally spit out full tracks if you drop in a BPM and some sounds and a style and what you're looking for. I guarantee in the next 6 months, we're going to be able to see that. I'm sure someone already can do it. It's just not out in the public right now.
If you're not using AI right now as a creative, you're way behind the eight ball. Way behind. It's something that you need to start to utilize currently and start to really get used to how to manipulate it to benefit you. And if you're not doing that, then you got to think about it. Like, these machines are as smart, if not smarter, and they're saying that it's going to be like 1.5 million times smarter than us at some point in the near future.
Yeah, I was hearing a little bit about the capabilities
prospect
of Google's version, which I believe is Bard, that there's like 1/100th of capabilities that are available to the public right now, that it's already doing successfully, just hasn't been released yet.
The Google AI platform that they're trying to release is the one that I think that the interviews that I've watched of AI creators that have helped create like the first.
Is it Bard? Is that what it is? It's Bard, right?
I think it might be. I'm not sure. I'm not positive. But they're saying that the Google one that's coming out is the most scary one. Without they're almost not even taking regulations off of it, but like really don't know if it should be accessible to the public.
Yeah,
because it's an arms race, is what they're looking at this as.
It's
right?
scary. It really is scary. In such a short period of time, how much we've kind of moved forward in this world, and obviously it's a huge part of what's going to be happening here in the short term and probably the long term. But I mean, I think we can have an episode where we have someone come on who's really deep in this world and can kind of help us as far as what are some of the sites that we can use to really help our businesses. But I think something we could talk about right now are what are some ways that we're using AI besides a couple that I just said that can help us in everyday life. ChatGPT and like the Google one, you could easily get captions for your posts, right? Mm-hmm. If you're creating newsletters, you can help. It can give you a great starting point for a newsletter. And I think the way I've been using a lot of the AI tools is to help me get started in something that I'm trying to create. And then I take what they spit out and I make it my own. And I grab a piece from here and a piece from here, and I create my own, whatever that's going to be, whether it's an image or a text or whatever it might be.
It's kind of funny. We did last week, actually, when we were trying to come up with topics for the podcast. We put in what are good topics for a DJ podcast.
We did.
And it literally gave us 20 different answers. And we've done episodes on all 20 answers. So it wasn't helpful to we were ahead of it. But if you're just in a bind like that and you're stuck, it's a great way to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And then you're creative enough once it gives you answers to manipulate those answers to fit what your brand or your language or just, what your person really is.
Just off the top of my dome, if you're putting out music, you can get your graphics done, or at least a good starting point. If you're putting out original music, you could literally find sites that can create music videos for your music. I did one. It's on YouTube. It's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what else I've used it for. If you're making, I'm trying to think of what else. What else you got? Oh, if you're making edits, for sure, it's a great way to create clips for TikTok or for Reels or for YouTube, because every one of these sites you can download in a different format, which is also equally amazing.
Speaking of, which we talked about earlier in the episode, music organization, we saw Freefall, and I think I brought this up before, but I'm going to reiterate, Freefall from Orlando, he took his entire Serato crate, copied and pasted into ChatGPT, and he organized everything in date order from the date that it came out. It's like 5,000 songs in 0.5 seconds.
I'm sure there's a way to find all the
dated
duplicates, tracks, and then go and delete them. You and I are not smart enough and not deep enough down this road to really talk on a high level about it. We're surface level users, like most of you guys probably are, to be quite honest.
Right.
It's interesting to me, and I've dabbled and I've tried a bunch of different platforms. But we got to get somebody on here who's like really, really knows this stuff for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was our little, I don't know. I guess we didn't really, let's dig more into the Drake thing. We kind of like glossed over that, I think. But what are your thoughts on AI creating tracks using an artist's voice? Do you think that it should be allowed? Do you think that the artist should have to be able to sign off on it? Do you think that maybe there's something where certain artists allow their voice to be used by the open public, and then they sign off on whether something gets released or not? Like, there's so many ways to think about it.
I think we have to look at this first from an artist's perspective. If somebody was using your voice, right?
Hell no.
Would you'd want to have to sign off on it, correct?
I'd want to have full control on whether something gets put out using my voice. And not only that, I think this is going to be something that's really important, but anything that is created via AI needs to have some sort of a symbol that lets people know that this is an AI version. This is not actually Drake rapping and writing these lyrics.
1,000%.
I think regulation. That's first and foremost. There's got to be some sort of regulation on it, and there has to be some sort of just announcement and letting people know that, hey, this is an AI version.
1,000%. That's where it needs to start. It needs to start with regulation into where if somebody's voice gets used, when Drake's voice gets used, and if it gets sold or it's being profited on, I think Drake should be getting kickback.
Yeah, I agree. I think he should get a percentage of the royalties that's negotiated.
Because I didn't look. I should have looked.
And probably a pretty big percentage, to be quite honest. Because
YouTube views.
The only reason why that song is selling is because Drake's name is on it, or why people know what it is. You know, like the writing doesn't matter as much as, hey, this is Drake, the biggest hip hop artist in the world, pop artist, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna listen and I'm gonna download just because it's Drake. Like,
I think if it comes out. Pre-regulation, if it comes out and it's profited on, that person should be compensated for it. I mean, I think as the regulation furthers, I think then it's like, well, that person whose voice that you're using needs to sign off on it.
Yeah.
In order for you to put it out in the world. And if not, then that person can sue the user. Because you could do anything with that person's voice.
It's going to get wild out here, I think, in this.
Quick.
It's going to get wild.
By the end of this year, it's going to be absolutely out of control.
The AI versions are okay. They're decent. You know, they're not, like, incredible.
There's some Biggie tracks that I liked.
Yeah. I think it's cool. You know, it's cool to think that there could be a Biggie AI verse with Drake, or name your favorite artist that you mentioned. Michael Jackson. Imagine new Michael Jackson music with The Weeknd or Justin Timberlake or whoever.
Yeah, it would be incredible.
And maybe those artists are actually singing the song and you're using AI to bring this other person back from the dead, quote, so to speak, you know?
Right.
Like,
right.
I think there are really cool creative things that could happen, and some really, really dope music can come from it. But I think that it is opening up a can of worms or a Pandora's box here where it's sort of a free-for-all for a while here.
Well, so the one interview I was watching, they're talking about like full-on AI concerts where like hologram, like everything, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like now you don't need Drake there.
Right.
Like Drake's hologram and you can have new songs that he's just singing up there.
Drake had young Drake hologram at his show, which was pretty sick. I thought that looked really good.
that's where like the future is going to get to a point where that is what it's going to be. Like you're going to be going to see. You're not even going to go. Drake's not even going to have to show up to get paid. But to your point, he should have to get paid. At the end of the day, somebody needs to establish regulation to where there is creatives are protected.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
if creatives aren't protected, then it's a fucking free-for-all. And then you can do anything you want. You can manipulate anybody's voice into whatever you want. The rabbit hole is endless.
Right. We're only talking about music. I mean, this is strictly a conversation about music, but this goes across everything. You know, president's voice and all. There's so many things that could go wrong with it for sure.
Next summer, the election season is going to be god awful, and like our parents not going to know how to decipher what's what.
First of all, my mom's be like, "Did you hear what this person said?" I'm like, "Mom, it's not real. Like someone used AI to make that." I already see it happening.
It is the Wild West, Instagram, like these AI Instagram girls that are following everybody and all this stuff. Like it's just the Wild West.
It's exciting. It's exciting to me because I tend to think of the positives and the people that are going to use this for good and how we can move music, not just music, but also just our society as a whole forward using this as a tool. In anything new and something that's created, there's going to be people that try to take advantage, right?
Yeah.
And you got to hope to try to weed those people out as much as possible and really focus on what this can do to move the music industry forward, right?
Yeah. And hopefully creatives benefit greatly from it long term.
Right. That's the other thing. How does this benefit us as artists? I think that's a big question because right now artists are getting killed.
Right.
Like you get 0.0001 penny per stream and like all it's just forever the music industry is about making the record labels money, right? And
I think when we have somebody on, I think one of the major questions is does this turn the dime on artists getting screwed?
We'll see.
We'll have to ask.
All right, I think this is a good point to wrap. Great conversation today. You got anything else? Is there anything we need to promo or throw out into the world?
Over here trying to think of the date. No, I'm in Jersey this week, so come see me. I'll be at a couple places. I'll put it up on my Instagram.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think just our Get Down Open Decks party, which is the second Wednesday of every month.
Yep.
Cream and Gary, featured artists next month. So
I'm flying in specifically for that. So come hang out.
Yeah, we're gonna work on our set. Like we can't go into a room full of DJs and look like idiots. Like we gotta throw down here.
I have a lot of work to do because how I want to DJ, I haven't been there in a long time. So
it'll be fun. We'll have a good time. I'm excited for that. For sure. Looking forward to it. So, all right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode. We'll catch you guys soon. Peace out.
Peace, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Get Down podcast. If you enjoy our show and find the topics entertaining or helpful in any way, we would greatly appreciate if you could subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you listen to it. We want to help more DJs, and subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show is the best way for us to do that. We appreciate all the love so far. Thanks for listening, guys.